Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title. Mitch, it's been a minute. I know we're still on this never-ending search to find a working title, but we cannot name the podcast The Business of Theater. I bet you would have done the same.
No, we can't. Nor
No,
can
we
we
can't.
say, but we can say the podcast that should have won its own Tony Award.
Yes. My rejected title was Asshat-In-Chief.
Why do we want to get political?
It's just because, at the moment we're having this conversation, the news is full of Asshat-In-Chief.
let's stay positive, shall we?
Yeah. So as we are having this chat, we are still thinking about the 2023 Tony Awards, the 76th annual Tony Awards.
Viewership went up. Viewership definitely went up, which is great.
Viewership went up. It was, 4.5?
Something like that.
But it's been the highest since 2019.
That's a good thing, although it's still,
still
forgive
low.
me for being negative. No, it is the lowest
award
watched
award show, yeah.
special on CBS of the entire year, every year of its existence.
Yeah.
It has the smaller viewership of any special on CBS.
Yeah. So before we get into like who won and who got snubbed or if anybody got snubbed, I was thinking about, as I'm watching the show, if the ratings have been low on CBS, perhaps CBS shouldn't be the place.
CBS is the number one network.
I know. I love CBS. Like sometimes I have to remind myself of how many shows I actually watch that are, that are CBS or CBS adjacent or Paramount, tied to them. But I was thinking that I was like, I wonder if they are thinking like, is it perhaps what is lacking in their partnerships, or really it's just that they're dealing with such a niche audience.
I think it's mostly a niche audience. Most of the numbers, I've read all the statistics for decades, and most of the audience comes from New York City, second LA, and there's just a trickle through the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So it's very niche. The only way CBS has agreed to do it, and they've been a good partner. I mean, everybody likes working with them. But most of that, I think, has to do with Glenn Weiss, the producer. No relation to Mitch Weiss. I wish I had him as an uncle or something. But the brilliant producer-director of many award shows. But he keeps winning the Emmy for doing the Tonys. The finances behind the Tonys is very expensive for the theater industry. CBS pays for the television aspect. They do not pay for the use of the theater folk, so that when they do a number from a musical on Broadway, the musical itself is paying all of its employees, its wardrobe people, its actors, its dancers, its musicians, its copyists. It comes straight out of the budget of the show. So if a show is losing money, the Tonys forces it to close because it's so expensive. And we're talking about the most I've ever heard spent on the Tony Awards by one show was $350,000 for that one performance. After and this year, I think they did some brilliant things.
You ask me every year after the new year, like, how much money do we have in the
Yes.
budget this year?
Yeah.
What are our financial goals? And I've said the same thing for
The set from the theater, so they have to build a second one and bring it to the stage of the Tony Awards. And
Hmm.
that means you are putting on a second show from scratch. The wardrobe people have to have the costumes cleaned. They have to, that means they're now working a seventh day. All the catering backstage at the Tonys is paid for by the show. They are sent a bill by CBS.
Hmm.
The transportation from the theater, which has the costumes, to now uptown at that wonderful theater, that was gorgeous. That is paid for by the show. So, and having done a few of these Tony Awards, it is a lot of money and it's a lot to prepare for, especially if you're only nominated for best sets. That's a lot of money to come on that show and do
Yeah.
a number. So I'll get all my negativity out of the way. I am predicting here tonight that 14 shows between now and July 2nd will close following the
Hmm.
Tony Awards.
Well,
We
we
can,
already know one was closing in 3 weeks.
right. And
Yeah.
many of them have announced it before the Tonys. But the other bad news, let me get it all out of the way. I'm sorry to do all the bad news, is with the exception of And Juliet, which is a fun show. There's no
Hmm.
question. That is the only show that has paid its investors back out of
Huh.
all the nominees that you watched. And Some Like It Hot, Kimberly Akimbo, and all the others are losing money week by week. So they have had to cover their losses to get to Tony night.
Hmm.
And now the question is, as we hit the summer doldrums, will the Tony Award give any of them enough of a boost that they can continue to run through the summer?
Yeah.
And that's where the Tony Awards fall down. It's a wonderful TV show. I so enjoy every moment, but it's depressing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll shut up
Uh,
now. Go ahead, Darnell. Be positive.
no, no. So I would say, um, uh, logistically, I thought it was well handled. I think it was sloppy. There have been times where coming back from commercial was pretty sloppy, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sense that here, and it was almost sad to think like without the writers,
Yeah, I know.
this was a better show. And
Yes, it
it's like,
was.
you know, I feel like there were like I feel like there were some mistakes that might have been like, I'm just gonna flub this so that we don't give off the impression that we can do this without the writers. But they did it.
They did
They
it.
did it without the writers. There were two moments where I thought were not really were like, yeah, huh? You know, it was there was a moment where our hostess Ariana DeBose is in the audience
Mm-hmm.
doing the award show selfie and forgot who was coming up next and had it written on her arm and said, I can't make this out, so we will see whoever shows up.
Right.
And
But but isn't
but it
that
was
what?
cute.
And it's live. It's the same thing as live theater. Any
Yeah.
night you go to the theater, they may stop the show in mid action because
Hmm.
of some problem, and the
Yeah.
audience actually tends to love that even more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
So
why I wasn't disappointed by that or anything.
she was
How
amazing, wasn't she? Amazing.
Yes, she was. So first of all, it opens with
Yeah.
Ariana in her dressing room, looking at the script for the award show and seeing that it's all blank pages, kind of flabbergasted and just says, okay. And then no dialogue whatsoever, which was wonderful.
Uh,
And then it's sort of like this quick tour from the dressing room to the theater, which I thought was
the
beautiful.
dancers were brilliant. They danced
Yes.
on carpet, and by the way,
Yeah.
those dancers were from the show Dancing, which had already closed.
Oh, wow.
They were,
Wow.
yeah, that's where they got them because they're available and they're
Yeah.
phenomenal dancers. So that
Yeah.
show just recently closed without any Tony nominations. But it was just, I kept going, how are they doing this? It's brilliant, you know.
Yeah.
But here's my question, and I questioned this on talk shows. So there are no writers. Who wrote the idea to have the script? She opens it up, and there are
Hmm.
blank pages.
Yeah.
Someone wrote that idea down, didn't they?
I
My
know.
guess
I
it
was.
was a producer saying, sitting down with Ariana, saying, "Let's
Yeah.
do this ourselves." But that's
Mm-hmm.
writing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. But he
you
wasn't
know
under
how to.
under a wasn't under a WGA contract. So
Mm, yeah, I know, but that's
I don't know the
tricky.
nuances of what allowed them to do the show without it, but I know that there was negotiations. So
Yes,
there was
the
something.
compromise worked, whatever it was.
Yeah,
And
and
they
this.
had the WGA had asked the playwrights not to attend, and I was pleased to see they all did. I'm sure they talked it through
Mm,
privately with them, but and no one said anything bad about the WGA. But even when David Henry Hwang, as a presenter,
mm-hmm.
he's a WGA member. He's a playwright of M.
Yeah.
Butterfly, award winning, and there
Mm-hmm.
he was presenting. And I'm going, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but he's there,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
representing. So it didn't matter. It was our community,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a joyous celebration.
The other bit that was kind of like a, you know, it was just a questionable moment was the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was celebrated with a dance that was beautiful, but um but they didn't get a chance to speak.
Right.
So Joel Grey and John Kander, who
Well,
so what is it, a way that was named after them?
no, no, no. Here's first of all, and I don't know if you saw it. I watched what's called Act One, the
Uh-huh.
streaming version where they handed out all of what they consider to be less important awards that the audience
Yeah.
doesn't care about. I do care. They're all the
Hmm.
design awards, and they got to speak, both of them.
Oh, great, great.
So they had a full speech, and I was surprised with the video ability there that they didn't just even let the video show one or two key lines from their speech from
Mm,
earlier. That would have been nice
yeah.
because they are royalty in the
Yeah.
American theater.
Yeah, it was just weird that they came out and just
Yeah,
waved, and that they were shooed off for a recording, you know,
yeah.
because right after that it was a video that played.
I tell you something that the first hour and a quarter, I guess it was, that Act One was really nice. It moved just as quickly. There was
Hmm.
no, special writing in it. It was just here's and all the announcements of the awards were done by the hosts. There were no guests,
Yeah.
so it just went zoom, 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 zoom.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it went very quickly. We got to see every designer that was nominated. Their face was on camera. The winner got to go up there. We saw their designs. They were shown
Mm,
on screen. It was just a really nice thing to do.
was smart.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll circle back to this in the future. But two of the designers made a point of mentioning their mentors, and
Mm,
I do want to talk about that. But let's finish up
yeah, yeah.
with the
I've got a
Tonys.
note for that.
Thank you, Darnell.
So okay, so let's go off. Let's go down the list of the winners. Uh, Fortunately, while I was aware of so much of this, I realized that I had not seen so much of what was on Broadway. Even though we were up in New York a lot. The best play went to Leopold Stott, um, Tom Stoppard, and yeah, I had
May
not.
I? Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Stoppard is beyond. He's sort of the Stephen Sondheim lyricist of playwriting. There
Hmm.
is such intelligence and understanding beyond the normal mentality that most of us walk through life with. He had 38 actors on stage in a play and made us learn who each of them was, even though we were introduced to all of them at the same time at the beginning.
Mm.
It was a challenge, but the man is beyond brilliant. Here's my problem. There was another show. Not all the shows that were nominated were wonderful, in my opinion, but between Riverside and Crazy,
Hmm.
I'm going to probably pronounce his name wrong, but the playwright's last name is Gurgis, who has written.
Stephen Adley Gurgis.
Thank you. I've seen, I think, everything he's written. He is my favorite American playwright. I think he understands um, what he combines in intellect with emotion with street. It is a
Hmm.
combination that is a unique talent, and his plays just move me. Leopoldstadt is intellectual. It is
Mm.
an that shows an intellectual understanding of how World War II's racism, anti-Judaism, anti-gay, destroyed families. And while you do get choked up toward the end, it is still, we are trying to understand this intellectually. And that's how Stoppard, like I'm the critic of the world here. That's how Stoppard works. And he had to have won because it looked like it was a crossword puzzle that even Stephen Sondheim couldn't create. It was
Mm.
so intricate and overwhelming. But I would give Gurgis the award in a heartbeat. There, of course, were two other great plays, Fat Ham and why am I forgetting the fourth? Oh, shoot. It'll come to me in a minute. But all of Top Dog. No, that was the winner of the revival. These
Oh,
were
in this
worthy.
category?
Yeah, in this category. What's the
Yeah,
fourth? Do you have
ain't
it
no
there?
mo, ain't no mo.
Ain't okay. Ain't no
Between
mo.
Riverside and Crazy, Cost of Living, Fat Ham.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I did not. The only one of those I haven't seen was Cost of Living, and people
Hmm.
I know saw it, thought it was brilliant. I think these shows will have a life in the theater for a long time. They're all winners,
Yeah.
but like I said, my vote, I would have voted for Riverside between Riverside and Crazy, even though I knew Leopoldstadt was the best play of the year. I mean, I don't think anything could come close. It was just too amazing that a mind could think of that show. Anyway, I
Yeah.
go on too long. Go
No,
ahead, move
no,
on.
that's fine. I mean, because Fat Ham was in the category, it was nominated five nominations and took home none. However,
Yep.
acknowledged, like
But it
truly an
won
honor
tons
to
of
be nominated.
awards off Broadway, so
Yes, and
it got its
including the
due.
Pulitzer.
Sometimes the competition is the problem. I always go back to 1968. Forgive me. There were only three musicals nominated that year because there were only three musicals that opened on Broadway that
Hmm.
year. And they had to fill the category, and none of them were worth Best Musical. None of them.
Hmm.
But they were all nominated, and one of them won. It was called Hallelujah Baby. Uh, it was an okay musical. But when you consider that you have years where there are five shows that deserve to win, and then here's a year where none of them deserve to win, that's the frustration of this, right? I wanted to give every play the best play category, including Ain't No Mo. It was brilliant. There are things in it
Yeah.
that I didn't, that to me we'll just leave it at it was brilliant. It was of its own making. It has its own category.
Yeah,
So,
I did feel like that. It's like, wow, this was still a great season, you know?
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and so at least you're not looking at the nominees going, okay, this was just an honorable mention, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yep.
Um, but I am a little disappointed that in myself, really, that I just was not aware of cost of living.
Yeah, I missed it, but I was working. I missed it not because I
Yeah, and
wanted to, and
it's
it was a
probably,
limited run. It was a.
yeah,
I think it will be done in other theaters, and we'll get to see the
other
play.
markets, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that'll be good. Okay, yeah, so that was best play, best musical. You know, from the very beginning of this season, it was abundantly clear that Kimberly Akimbo was going to sweep, and for
except
the most
of
part, they did.
yeah. Well, the problem was, of course, Some Like It Hot, which Casey Nicola, who won for best choreography, I mean, he made that show sizzle, and it is a
Hmm.
big,
Yeah.
old fashioned dance your butt off
Mm-hmm.
musical. And so many people I know said it's time for Broadway to have returned to the big musical, and they wanted to vote for that one.
Hmm.
The problem is, of course, is that Kimberly Kimbo is so unique. Although I know three good friends of mine who would not have voted for it, and there's something intriguing about why somebody wouldn't vote for it, and they walk away saying, I enjoyed it. Everybody enjoyed it. Nobody hated it. I take that back. One person I know was angry it won. Angry. And I don't understand it because I thought it was
Oh
brilliant.
no, no, no. Yeah, I
Brilliant.
all these category,
Anyway,
all the
so
nominees in these
but it was only
categories,
between those two
even
musicals.
if you had one that you wanted to win but didn't win, you still, I just felt like, well, okay, you know, and it was like, I'm happy with this too. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it wasn't the
yeah.
one I thought, or it wasn't the one I hoped for. And I felt that way about everything. And some of the shows that I hadn't seen yet, and I was like, I'm like, ooh, I'm looking for an opportunity to come and see those as
Hmm.
well. But
I.
yeah, Kimberly Akimbo, I saw the play
Hmm.
years ago. Um, a company called the Philadelphia Theater Workshop. I hope I got that right. Yeah, Philadelphia Theater Workshop produced Kimberly Akimbo, and I thought it was such a unique uh, piece. And everyone I know that has seen the musical could not stop talking about it. I felt like every time we saw them, they were like, "Have you seen Kimberly Akimbo? Oh my god, it's great."
The
I mean,
I will tell you the one disappointment of the Tonys for me, and nothing against Alex Newell. I have not seen Shucked,
mm-hmm,
and I know Alex Newell is a talent. I mean, I've seen him do television and other theater in New York, and he always kills it on stage. So this is a talent deserving of a Tony Award. However, Justin Cooley in Kimberly Akimbo, that
mm,
was my disappointment. I think
mm.
that kid did such. I just wanted flowers thrown at him, confetti. He just is so unique in that show. He brings such heart to it, and the show. He's an essential part of it. He helps. He's part of the reason it works, a major
Yeah,
part. So I just want to give him kudos. I mean, he won tons of awards off Broadway, so he's not, unheralded. But that was a
yeah,
disappointment to me.
yeah. Well, for Alex Newell, they um, they every time they performed that one piece, they tore the house down. And
Hmm.
so, that was in itself. I mean, it was really just the piece. The piece itself is what catapulted
You saw Shucks, correct?
Alex to the win. No, I didn't. I've
Oh,
seen
I thought you
a
did.
performance. No, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Nope, that was one I didn't see as well.
Hmm. Oh
We
well.
were finding. I mean, not obscure, but we were really tapping into New York City Center this year. There were quite a few. There were a couple of productions that Matt really wanted to see, and yeah, and they both. I mean, Into the Woods, of course,
Hmm.
and Parade, which both transferred to
Right.
Broadway. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And what are your opinions about Parade winning over Into the Woods and
I
Sweeney Todd and
pray. I don't know. I feel like I, it kind of goes back to Rise. Theater
oh,
industry has a diversity problem, and it's sort of it's sort of the it's sort of the foundation of the problems in the community altogether.
explain our audience.
Well, I just feel like there's marginalization even in this community that is trying to be so inclusive, and and because of the news, parade was hit with like protests and like anti-Semitism and so on, and like that is enough to kind of draw more attention to it and give it. And I can't help but think like sometimes these things factor into uh,
I think, yeah, I think what
choices.
happens though sometimes, and it's award voting is emotional for some people,
Yes.
and for
Yeah.
others it's pure business. But in
Hmm.
this case, this seemed to be emotional. I
Yeah.
have not seen Parade. Let me be clear about that, um, and nothing against it, but this is a serious musical that's being revived. Was not a hit the first time out.
Hmm.
Um, and this time was done in such a way that we had two performances that people were, you know, you'll excuse me, sure, they're cavelling over, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? Um, and I think it's one of those cases where all the nominees deserve to win. And this was just what may have put it over the top was that it had an emotional quality. Um, Jews, other than in New York, do consider themselves a minority, and they
Yeah.
are, other than in New York. And the voters for the Tonys are a mixture of across the country because a lot of the voters are theater owners at regional theaters that book Broadway shows. So they sometimes will say, well, Some Like It Hot is a big splashy musical. I'll be able to sell more tickets for that. And that sometimes influences the vote. On the other hand, they may say this show is cheaper and the splashy musical will sell itself.
Hmm.
And so, and that's part of the voting. So it's a whole mixture. So what would Parade do? Parade is not going to tour. Parade is probably going to be the type of thing that is done at a lot of regional theaters,
Hmm.
right? So it's my guess. A whole whopping Mitch Weiss opinion, like that matters to anybody.
Yeah.
Um, but Into the Woods is already touring. It's already making money, and
Yeah.
it's a delight. But
Hmm.
it's been revived a number of times, and it's always going to be a delight, right? And Sweeney Todd is a unique piece of theater that, you excuse the expression, it kills no matter who does it,
Yeah.
right? And
It
everyone,
slays.
it slays.
Slays.
I mean, who doesn't love gorgeous singing with blood spurting out of a neck? I
Hmm.
mean, that just will sell the show to me at any time. Um,
Yeah.
so,
There was a lot of raving about the choreography in the
hmm,
performance. It was just like, wow, this choreography.
well,
It's how you have the entire that seemed to be the entire ensemble on
right.
stage.
Yes.
And so how do you get them to move about? And
But
they're
and,
moving around. And
again, we're being opinionated. I didn't
hmm
like the opening numbers choreography to Sweeney Todd. I found it
mm,
distracting. Of course,
mm,
I'm old enough to have seen the original
yeah.
Al Prince production a few times, and it was stark, but it was powerful. And I don't know why it bothered me. That's
Hmm.
just one person talking, and but I haven't seen the
It's the
entire show.
purist.
Tommy, yeah, well, no, I'm not a purist. I like new things. Into the Woods, I saw the original. I like this version better.
Yeah.
No offense, James Lapine, for directing it and writing it. He did fine, but I like this trimmed down version that they did. Anyway, moving right along.
Moving right
What else
along.
do you want to talk about the Tonys? Anything?
Where are we? Oh, so we stopped at musical. So Kimberly Akimbo also won Best Book of a Musical and Best Original Score.
Mm-hmm. And Bonnie Milligan and Victoria Clark, both female actors, won,
Yes. Um,
and
best
deservedly so.
hmm Best Revival of a Play was Top Dog Underdog.
I think it's probably the right choice. And anyway, I think I saw you read down the list because I think I actually saw all of these, which I'm shocked at. I didn't know I went to that much
So
theater this year.
the nominees: A Doll's House, Jessica Chastain, um, August Wilson's The Piano Lesson, Samuel L. Jackson. Just can't get any love in these awards shows.
He's
Well,
nominated. He's nominated. That's some
whatever.
love.
What was the? What was I think it was the. When did he just got a he just got a lifetime achievement award, right? In
Did
one
he?
of the award shows.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, it's just you've been consistent this whole time. And now you get the it's not a
There,
consolation award. It's like your
there are
entire
plenty.
body of work is amazing.
There are plenty of super famous actors who won Oscars and Emmys only as a lifetime achievement, never won for their film work.
Yeah.
From a Cary Grant to a Bob Hope, who hosted the Oscars for like 25 years.
Hmm.
They had to give him an honorary one. He was in like 80 movies,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it happens, and that doesn't mean. Uh, Look, Samuel Jackson can take it to the bank. What has a man made? $4 billion. He's been in every $1 billion movie in
Yes,
existence.
absolutely.
So
I
I'm
yeah,
not going to feel bad. He's a wonderful actor.
he's
I'm
in the
not
Marvel
feeling bad
Cinematic
for him.
Universe.
Yeah.
He is nothing to worry about. Yes.
Yeah. It's,
And also the sign in Sidney Brewstein's window.
thank you for saying that correctly.
It's
Written by a
Brewstein, right?
black woman at a time that
Lorraine
that was
Hansberry.
Lorraine Hansberry, Raisin in the
Hansberry.
Sun, Les Blanc. She was
Yeah.
brilliant. She died at the age, may get this wrong. I think she was 38. And she had, as a black woman, 3 Broadway shows. That's
Hmm.
not bad.
Not bad at
Amongst
all.
other shows. Right. And in the 50s and early 60s. So she not only broke through, but and there's a statue of her now, although I don't love it, in Times Square. The woman deserves lots of love.
Yeah.
I saw the off Broadway revival of Raisin in the Sun this past year at the Public Theater. Brilliant. We did not know until I saw this production that she had written 4 versions of the
Hmm.
show. The version that was done in the film was rewritten to highlight the male lead, Sidney Poitier,
Hmm.
but the play was a female lead. And this production brought back two characters that had been cut out of the Broadway show and out
Hmm.
of the movie. And they put them back in, and it was very female oriented. And it had a whole different flavor, but oh my goodness, was it powerful. Give the director kudos.
Well,
Yeah, and it won an award. It won an Off Broadway award for Best Revival, so it got its due. But again, we got Bruce Steen's Window instead. And
30,
she was, by the way, the first
34.
black. She was, that when she passed? Thank you for looking it up.
34.
Wow. But it's also Bruce Steen's Window, first play written by a black playwright with white characters only.
Hmm.
Again, major accomplishment that she could get, quote unquote, get away with it at that time.
Yeah, I always think
That
that's so interesting. It's like artists want to challenge themselves by either
mm-hmm.
portraying a character that they don't, in whose situation doesn't resonate directly with them, like they're trying to put themselves into this character's shoes. Writers would do the same thing. I'm going to do the work to tell this story. I'm not going to just wing it. This is just my point of view from
Right.
from my window, being a nosy busybody in my neighborhood. Like, no, that's not that's not what happens. You're thinking
Mm-hmm.
all the rewrites of these plays, and they still get criticized just because they're not the hue or the ethnicity of whatever the primary
But
characters.
you know the old adage that if somebody has a problem with you, before you start feeling bad, it could be their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the critics. That's something, and that doesn't mean that all these plays are brilliant. People, you've not got to let playwrights make mistakes. The idea is, did it try to do something that could affect your life? And
Yeah.
when you get someone like Lorraine Hansberry, oh my God, she changed the theater world. She changed the world for the people who saw her work. I hate putting her on a pedestal, but can you imagine had she lived past 34? What
Yeah.
we could have gotten from her? And she probably would have rewritten her shows 12 more times, right? As times change.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just brilliant. Anyway, so that
Yeah.
brings us back to that's where Gurgis, to me, Gurgis is already on that level.
Hmm.
And we just need to throw him up on some giant pedestal and celebrate him and just ask him for more.
Yeah.
I'm just
Mawa.
moved.
Moaw.
Yeah. Thank.
uh, yes. So
Okay.
we talked about the best revival of musical Parade, but the nominees were Into the Woods, Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
And you have any comments on that? We talked a little about it.
I don't know.
What would you have given it to?
I would have given it to Parade. As much as I
Really?
loved Into the Woods, I
Huh.
would have given it to Parade. And
Great.
I love Sweeney Todd. I love
Mhm.
Sweeney Todd too, but it's just I don't know. I felt like I didn't see Camelot, and I didn't have an interest.
They again, forgive my age, but I saw the original.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it 1 week after Richard Burton and Julie Andrews left the show, but Robert Goulet was still in it. And my parents took me to see it, and I was bored then. And I have a feeling I'd be bored now. The topic could be interesting. I just don't think it's moving. Now, I have not seen this production, not
Yeah.
trying to make comments on it. I'm just
Hmm.
telling you about the play itself.
Yeah, and
There's
that's
no
that's what
reason I want to see it. There's no reason.
that's what I mean. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. It was like out of everything, I wasn't going to be like Camelot. Let's go
Yeah.
see Camelot. Oh, we could see Shucked. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but again, a great category. Um,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
they were all amazing, and the fact that Into the Woods, with its very simplistic scenic design, much like Parade, even though Parade was, on this platform, it still felt simple. You know, which I appreciated that about both of those, and
Hmm.
yeah.
And one of the
Um,
things I have. Excuse me for interrupting
mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Um, when there was a point where I had a conversation with an electrician on Broadway, and in those days, the theater owners were blaming all the high costs of tickets on the stagehands, which has never been true, by the way. That's like a Republican excuse to blame somebody, right? Um, as a manager, I can tell you I know the budgets. It is not the stagehands.
Yeah.
Anyway, the electrician said to me, "You know, I'm tired of being accused of this. All you have to do if you want to save money on stagehands is give us smaller sets and smaller lighting design." He said, when there used to be a living room on stage, all we needed was three stagehands. But if you're going to give us computers and moving sets and things that come down and moving lights and this and that, he said, we can't be in two places at once. We give you the number of stagehands that your set requires. You add them up, that's your expensive stagehand list. We're not all going home rich. You just need
Yeah.
a lot of them. So come in with a simpler design and you'll save money.
You don't want to make
That,
any changes to this scenic design? Okay. So that's 1 million.
thank you. Oh, easy. Well, look, Beauty and the Beast with all of their giant things, that was a $3 million costume budget.
Wow.
That's right. I mean, Disney spends money on costumes. They think they're more important than the people in the show.
Hmm.
And I will not do an exclusion on that. That's just my opinion. But I think most people in Disney recognize that.
Yeah.
It's important to them. That's their
Yeah.
priority. So the same thing comes down to, and by the way, Beauty and the Beast had more wardrobe people than most shows would ever need, as did Phantom of the Opera. So
Well,
you
I
want to save
do
money? Change the costumes.
I do love a layered costume that can transform in a matter of seconds. You're
There
just
you
like,
go.
what
Isn't that
happened?
great?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yes.
Yes!
Yep.
Okay. Best performance by an actor in a leading role in a play went to Sean Hayes. And just looking at the faces of Corey Hawkins, Stephen McKinley Henderson, uh, Yahya Abdul Mateen II, and Wendell Pierce,
Mm-hmm.
we all knew what they were thinking. That's
The
all.
whole audience.
Yes, we all knew what they were thinking, and I just I looked primarily at Wendell Pierce, and I was like, I am writing his dialogue in his head right now.
And look,
It's
and that's not to take away that Sean
no,
Hayes did a great
no,
job. And
yes,
and and nobody should interpret it that way. Even when you say the obvious,
not at
which
all.
is seeing those four faces versus Sean
Mm-hmm.
Hayes, you get it. You can say that and still acknowledge that Sean Hayes did a phenomenal job. That's
Yeah.
allowed to be said. But the top dog actors, I mean, yes, they're against each other, and they were brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Wendell Pierce did a brilliant job. Who did I just
Yeah.
leave out? Um,
Uh, Yahya Abdul
no,
Mateen.
that's top dog.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Corey
Wendell Pierce,
and
Stephen McKinley
oh, see,
Henderson.
well, by the way, that's my vote.
Yeah, between
because
Riverside and
Stephen
Grace.
McKinley Henderson, he not only was the play phenomenal, you had somebody who understood every breath in it.
Hmm.
And I just want, I remember when I saw it, I just said, I don't care who else gets nominated this year, give him the Tony.
Yeah.
And that was my feeling even at the Tonys. I just wanted Henderson to win. It was so brilliant. So, and you get to a certain age and you want somebody to at least have won something, a la Samuel Jackson, whatever. But, McKinley Henderson doesn't have the money Samuel Jackson has. So what's his, um, you know, gift that he gets for his brilliant work? They were all brilliant. But
Yeah.
again, we have to say nomination. So what can you do?
Um, I okay. So best performance by an actress in a leading role in a play went to Jodie Comer or Comer.
Comer,
Is it
yeah.
Comer? Jodie Comer for Prima
Facey.
Facie.
Yeah.
Prima Facie. Prima Facie.
And it came directly from London, her winning all the awards in London. And they said that she was so good in London that there was no chance anyone had against her in New York. And
Wow.
obviously they were correct. So we knew even before the show opened that was
Yeah.
the challenge. I have not yet seen the show. I am truly, and I'm one who dislikes one people shows, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
Prima Facie is, a one woman show.
Mm.
But I'm going to see this one. I want to
Yeah.
see what knocks everyone off their keister.
The nominees were Jessica Chastain for Doll's House, Jessica Heck for Somerset 1976, and Audra McDonald, Ohio State Murders.
Another one woman show.
Yeah, we were at Carnegie Hall for Audra McDonald, and uh, she said something about like I can't be here all night. I have a matinee tomorrow, and it was for Ohio State Murders. Um, yeah, but it was just like, oh, but I didn't see it,
Yeah.
and so I can't speak about any of these.
Had a
Unfortunately, I
wonderful
did not.
set. I had two interns in from out of town, and the Schuberts were kind enough to let us visit the theater when it was closed.
Oh yeah, that was the one you mentioned.
Right. So we
Hmm.
went on stage there, and I just looking at the set, I loved it. But we never got to see the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
Best performance by an actor in a leading role in a musical went to J. Harrison
Gee.
Gee.
Mm-hmm.
J. Harrison Gee. What a great acceptance speech.
And a great performance, and he
Great
did. But
performance. Yeah.
so were a lot of the other ones. Again,
Hmm.
we had a good year.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
was
think
a
I would
very
have been.
good year.
Oh Lord, you're old.
It was a very good year. Yes.
We had to have you sing. Are you up for it, Tony?
You know, I'm just trying to get the mics right.
what
I'm
what are
trying to.
the awards called in Philly?
The Barrymores.
The Barrymores. That's right. So
The
you can go up for a
Barrymores.
Barrymore.
The Barrymores.
All
Yes.
right. The other noms for Best
The
Actor.
Christian Borle for
Mhm.
also
Who
for
was his partner, right, in the
yes,
show?
in Some Like It Hot.
Hmm.
Josh Groban, Sweeney
Hmm.
Todd, the Dean and Barbara Fleet Street. Yes. Brian Darcy James, Into the Woods, and Ben Platt for Parade, which is
Right.
interesting that the production won, Best Revival. The two who
And it,
carried the show.
yeah, yeah. Well, they were both nominated,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks they're wonderful. Again, here it is. We just talked about the actors. There
Hmm.
isn't an actor in that group that Sean Hayes won that I wouldn't have given the award to.
Yeah.
So any of them would have made me happy, and I'd still be upset about the others.
Hmm.
It's the same thing in this category. Well, no, I
And
take that back. I think Guy and Platt had the roles that were set up to win an award.
mm,
Sometimes you need the right role to match the actor.
and also Colton Ryan in New York, New York was a
Ah,
nominee as well.
right. So nothing against anybody, just the two that seemed to stand out were Platt and Guy. And
Yeah.
Burl was phenomenal. He's phenomenal in everything I've ever seen him in.
Hmm.
But Guy's role is splashier,
Hmm.
and it has an emotional quality to it that we can
Yeah.
respond to.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um, Best performance by an actress in a leading role in a musical went to Victoria Clark for Kimberly Akimbo.
yay!
Of course. And the nominees, I mean, another great category. Annalee Ashford,
Hmm.
Sweeney Todd, Sarah Bareilles, Into the Woods, Lorna Courtney, and Juliet, and Michaela Diamond, Parade. Yeah, it was just a tough category.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Not a tough category, but just like a wonderful category. It's just
And
yeah,
it's why every year
yeah.
we talk about, can't you just give awards to the people who stand out? And, but people get snubbed either way. So,
Well,
uh,
interesting. There is a conversation here in Philly about potentially making a change to the Barrymore Awards process that would essentially allow for more acknowledgement. And
mhm.
it's not quite finalized yet, but yeah, there is this sort of thought that too much adjustment might make it might dilute the value of the
Right,
award as
right.
a whole. So it's like there can only be one winner. There shouldn't be
And the
a million
purpose
winners.
is promotional and marketing.
Yeah.
I will say there's an award in New York that's been here forever called the Theater World Awards.
Mm,
And what's wonderful about this award, it is given to a standout performance by a performer who is having their first experience on a Broadway stage.
mm,
So that you can have, and I don't know if this has ever happened, but I think I've seen a list that had 60 people on it certain years. And there's a ceremony, they each get the award. It's like, hey, you finally made it to Broadway. And whether you're in a smaller role or in a larger one, you stood out. And there are celebrities, of course, from film and TV who have never been on Broadway. They get one of these awards if they stand out.
yeah.
And then there are people in the chorus who had that moment that everyone recognized, and it was their first time. They get the award. You can only get it once, but
Hmm.
it's a wonderful award. So maybe we make up for the Tony Awards and the Barrymores with the Theater World Awards.
Yeah. And so, of course, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably know all the winners. We're just providing extra commentary, but there is a
Yeah.
link. There is a link in the show notes for the winners if you want to see all of that. Did we have time to talk about any of the other two things? I know we are pressed for time
Well,
today,
if we make it real quick.
and we're not quite sponsored yet. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
in general, did you want to talk about mentorship or the end of
No, no.
year
Oh, those
things?
two things, we can do that at another time.
Okay, yeah, we'll
All
save
right.
them.
Yeah.
We'll save them then.
I think they're important
But
topics and we can mention them.
absolutely, we will, and we'll probably still touch on, the Tonys, as in upcoming podcasts as well. But all in all, I think it was great up in the heights.
That's right.
Literally in the heights. I would have loved like a crane shot of the heights. It would have been nice to see outside, like where this theater is, because it was like 175th Street. Like, you know, everybody doesn't know where that is. So we were
Right.
just on the inside of this beautiful palace, and you're like, what do they do here? It's kind of like the Met Philadelphia here in Philadelphia.
It's one of still the great things about New York, and forgive me for being a fan. There's so many bad things about New York. We all know that, but every day I see something new in this city. There's so much to see and that you don't know about. And you go into Queens or Brooklyn or the Bronx or God forbid Staten Island.
Yeah.
There are things. I mean, I took a trip to Staten Island on the ferry, free trip on the ferry, and walked a mile to go see a performance in a museum with must have been 2 acres of land that blew me away. And it's in the middle of, I guess you'd call it nowhere, but it's
Mm.
there, and
Yeah.
people in the community can use it. So anyway,
And it's there for
it's
them. Yeah.
and bless Lin Manuel Miranda because he keeps being the most influential source of change in theater. No one wants to say no to him, including
Yeah.
all the old white guys who are running the theater
No
industry.
one wants to say no to this.
So I
Yes.
bless him for everything he's tried to do,
Yes.
and we will talk about Rise, his list of minority backstage
Yeah.
performers that we want to encourage to get work for, and we'll talk about mentorship, and that'll be
Yeah.
our next podcast.
Absolutely. And that's the business of theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford.
I'm Mitch Weiss.
And we will see you at the theater. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/TBOT. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at em3ryotm.